Hey everyone, Shankar here, and today I want to talk to you about 5 practical things that you can do to maintain your balance and positivity at this difficult time. So we're on day 8 or 7, or who even knows anymore, of lockdown here in France. Day 1 in the UK. Good luck to all of you, but I'm really glad to see that the conversations are starting to happen around the wider social implications and personal well-being implications of confinement. So a lot of resources are starting to be produced. I know that some of the well-known influencers are starting to put stuff out. The World Health Organization has started to put some stuff out, Mind, and various other sources. What I'm going to do is try and put as many links as possible in the description below, so that's a resource for you to jump off and find stuff that maybe talks to you. A lot of that stuff is around anxiety in terms of the disease itself or people's futures, and I'm not really going to deal with that. What I want to do is to draw on the long experience I have of social withdrawal and create a package of stuff that you can use practically to help you maintain balance and positivity in confinement. Because there's a lot of stuff on social media about it's easy, just do it. It's more than a weekend of staying in. We're looking at the long term. We're looking at weeks, months, possibly longer. And that requires a little bit more of a structured approach, because as time goes on, that lack of connection is going to start to count. So what are the features that are going to the features that are going to have an impact? Some features of life that are becoming unavailable. Sorry, I'm distracted by the helicopter. So some features of life that are going to start to become unavailable, that usually are important for our balance and well-being, are things like our in real life contact, our connection to nature, our levels of activity, particularly sport and exercise. And they're all things that are going to start, they've started being in limited supply, and so we need to take some positive steps and practical steps in order to rebalance that and maintain our sense of well-being. So what are these steps? Before I go into them, wait for it a little bit longer, before I go into it, I'd like to do something naughty and wipe my nose. I'd like to mention 2 temptations that it's worth being wary of. So the first of these is abandoning our routines and rituals, and by that I'm not really talking about religious rituals, but by all means maintain those. I'm talking about get up, get dressed, do your grooming routine, have your morning ritual. Your routine can shift. You can change it. Better if that's a thoughtful process. You can shift your routine, but try and maintain the rituals with it and try and have an overall routine. And particularly the grooming routine, that could be a barometer for you, especially if you're actually confined and not really going out much at all. If your grooming routine starts to slip, then that should be a red flag for you, because just because there's no one to present yourself to doesn't mean that you shouldn't maintain presentability. And that's not a philosophical point, that's really very much a practical point at this time that we're going through. So that's the first one. And the second one is satisfaction shortcuts. So satisfaction shortcuts are things like drugs, alcohol, increasing your smoking, increasing your sugar uptake, masturbation, video games, binge watching, So a whole host of things. Some of those things are opportunities to interact and connect with other people, and I'll talk about that later. You know, social media, excessive social media, that's one of my bugbears. But yeah, there can be an opportunity to connect to other people, but what they do is they provide a short but intense, neurochemical spike that doesn't give us lasting satisfaction. And as I said, over a weekend or, you know, a short period of slobbing out, you know, that's not something to particularly worry about. But considering that we're looking at an ongoing long-term situation, then not only do we want to maintain consistency and balance and a general sense of well-being over the period of lockdown, over the period of confinement, but we really want to come out of it fighting fit. There's going to be, you know, rebuilding our lives, possibly, certainly rebuilding society, and you know, we want to be fit for that. And if we're reliant on these neurochemical spikes, these satisfaction shortcuts, then we're not going to be fighting fit and our ideal selves. So those are two things to be wary of. Let's get on to the 5 practical steps that we can take. So the first of those is, do excuse me, very bad example. The first of those is to take the things that we're finding are in limited supply in our life, and those would be, you know, more keenly felt. Different ones would be more keenly felt by different people, and make the most of those where we find them. So in the examples that I cited, you know, in real life interactions, take the time to reach out to the humanity of the people that you do interact with, whether it's shopkeepers or some other kind of assistant, or, you know, yeah, whatever it is. I was going to say people you bump into, but you don't want to bump into people. You want to keep a safe distance. People whose paths you cross. You know, take a moment to reach out to the humanity in them and make as much of a connection with them as you can. And, you know, this is an opportunity for us to find communities where we don't have them. So that's in real life interactions. Nature's another good one. I've been so lucky to spend a lot of my life in the wilderness, up mountains, what have you. But before that, I lived in Shoreditch, East London, and I can tell you, Iron Square Gardens, I found a lot of nature there. And, you know, if you take the time to appreciate, notice and appreciate these things, whether it's, you know, the tree in your square, or, you know, a small patch of grassland which will have a lot of stuff going on in it, or, you know, lichen growing between paving stones, or just something that's growing on your windowsill. Maybe plant something. You know, so there are opportunities, and what I'm saying is take the time to notice and appreciate and connect with them. So the third example that I cited was, you know, your levels of activity, and this is really important over the long haul. You know, maintaining your level of activity, it doesn't just maintain your fitness, it maintains your neurochemical balance, it affects your digestion, and all sorts of feedback loops going on in terms of activity. So do try and maintain your activity. There's a lot of resources on the internet, so I'm not going to go on about that, but do find something that you can do in the space that you have available. And another thing I would say is, you know, it's an opportunity to think about the activity that you enjoy and what it is you enjoy about that, so that you can transfer it into something new. So maybe you're an endurance person and you enjoy pushing through and keeping going and beating that desire to stop. Maybe you're someone that enjoys giving your all for a short period of time. Maybe you're someone who enjoys trying something repeatedly until you master it. Maybe juggling would be a good option there. Maybe you're someone that enjoys getting in the flow of, you know, your breath, or, you know, so there's all sorts of things that might be the features of your activity that you enjoy, and it's an opportunity to find that and transfer it to someone else. And if you're not someone that's particularly sporty, then maybe now's the time. You know, it could be hand-eye coordination, you know, whatever. There's, you know, if you're not someone who's particularly sporty, you know, given that maintaining your activity level is going to help replace other things, then maybe have a think about what you would enjoy and have an experiment. It's a great chance to do that. So that's the first one, is making the most of the things that are in limited supply where you find them and finding alternatives to those. The second one is about improving your living space, and that could be, I'm sorry about the helicopter, that could be doing some spring cleaning. I'm smiling and looking at my place because I'm actually in the middle of spring cleaning now, and it's actually a state as I'm talking about improving your living space. But yeah, it could be spring cleaning, it could be doing some DIY, it could be rearranging the furniture, it could be something as simple as changing the photos in your frames. So the important thing is that you engage with and connect to your space, and what I found is that once you start making improvements, then you'll think of other improvements to make. And also, this, like so many of the things that I'm going to talk about, is an opportunity for you to interact in a constructive way with the people that are in the space with you, or to interact with the space itself if you're on your own. So that's the second one, is to take steps to improve your living space. The third one is taking steps to improve your future. So this is a moment where a lot of people are feeling precarious about their future, and I get that a lot. But rather than ruminating on it or fretting about it, try to think about your ideal future. And this is true even if you're not worried about your future. Try and think about your ideal future, and visualize it. Think about the pros and cons of what that life would entail. Start to research it. Start to plan for how you're going to get to that future. And if you're lucky, there's an opportunity to take small steps towards your future. So, maybe that's doing some learning. Maybe that's making some contact. All sorts of things that you can do. It doesn't have to be huge steps. Again, small steps that are connecting you to your future. So that's number 3. Number 4 is to connect with and contribute to community. So 2 types of community. The first one is the community in your local area. So this is a time where there are, a lot of people that are going to have needs, vulnerable people that you will be in a position to help. Maybe you can get shopping for them, maybe you can get a takeaway for them. I foresee that quite a lot of services are going to not be available anymore in the ways that we are used to them. So as that starts to happen, maybe think about how you can contribute. Maybe get together with other people and maybe form a circle of people that, phones people that are vulnerable or on their own, and give them just a little bit of emotional support. There's all sorts of things that you could be doing. So have a think, reach out, contribute to your community. That's the first one. The second one is online communities. So I talked about social media earlier as a potential problem. Positive social media is also possible. So what do I mean by positive social media? Positive social media is 2 things. So connecting with, deepening relationships with people that you know and love in real life, or that you have long-term positive online relationships with. So deepening those relationships. And the other kind of person that you should be reaching out to is people in communities with which you share a positive interest. So that could be, bushcraft or stamp collecting, or I'm really trying to think of a feminine one, and I'm really sorry that I can't. But reaching out to people with whom you have a positive shared interest and having constructive conversations. And that constructive is really important, because now's not a time to get into the "we hate Boris Johnson" negativity. I'm sure there are all sorts of criticisms of our leaders right now. But if you want to maintain balance and positivity, then that sort of conversation, which I know that I can get, I can have a lot of fun with that sort of thing sometimes, but it's not helpful now, partially because it's part of that group of things that provides us with an intense neurochemical spike. What is helpful is constructive conversations. So those are conversations which build something. So they might be building the relationship, as I've already mentioned. They might be building projects. They might be building the community itself, or they might be building ideas within that space. So constructive, building something. So try and keep your interactions online and your connections with community and your contributions to community online constructive. So that's number 4, contribute to a community. And number 5, which is my favourite, is get creative. So that could be art, that could be music. I'll talk about music in a second. That could be just making something. Boris Johnson, he talked about how he loves to make buses out of shopping crates. Whatever. So it could be building a matchstick tower. It could be making something out of tin cans. It could be, a whole host, decorating something. A whole host of ways to connect to your creative being. I'd talk about music. Now, music is, I talked about earlier about neurochemical shortcuts. Music is a satisfaction shortcut that is very powerful and very positive, because it's not a targeted neurochemical spike. It creates a whole brain engagement that is enduring, and it's really powerful and really useful to listen to music, because we can use it to deal with a difficult mood. And the way that we do that is to start off with music that matches that difficult mood, whether it's feeling down, whether it's feeling angry, whether it's feeling constrained and confined, and gradually move it to music that matches a more positive, uplifting mood. And it's such a powerful technique. I really recommend you trying it sometime. So listening to music is powerful, but right now I'm talking about actually engaging with creating music. Again, it could be simple, but that's even more powerful in terms of the whole brain engagement. And creativity and art as a whole, is a very powerful force for maintaining positivity. And as I said, it doesn't have to be complicated, and it doesn't have to be particularly high quality. Don't worry about the quality of what you're doing. For the whole of human history, right up till very recently, we didn't have professional creatives, and we didn't have professional creative recordings, and so that meant that the barrier that we felt in terms of quality for giving ourselves permission to get creative just wasn't there. We sang while we worked, we decorated stuff, we just got involved and did it. And now, at this time where we're socially withdrawn, it's a huge opportunity for you to say, I'm not going to judge myself, and I'm not going to let anyone else judge me. I'm just going to get creative, do some stuff, just try it. And if you don't think it's very good, it doesn't matter. And if anyone else doesn't think it's very good, it doesn't matter. Just, get on with it and just engage with the pleasure of being creative. So that's my 5 practical steps. I'll just go over them one more time. So that's making the most of those things that are in limited supply when we come across them. I'm talking about the connections there, not grabbing loads of toilet rolls. So making the most of the things that are limited supply, or finding alternatives to them, improving our living space and connecting to our living space, connecting to our future, connecting to and contributing to community, and connecting to the creative part of our being. So it's not very well disguised there that all of these things are actually about connection. They're practical ways to improve our sense of connection, because over a period of long-term social withdrawal, it's connection that we're going to find is missing, whether we identify that or not. So supporting our connection is what we really want to be doing, and setting our minds to it now before it starts to be difficult is a healthy thing to do. So I haven't talked about yoga and meditation at all in this video, and that was deliberate because I wanted to reach out and speak to as many people as possible. But obviously yoga and meditation are incredible ways of building that sense of connection. In fact, it's what yoga means in many ways. So there's a lot of resources out there that you can use to further your yoga and further your meditation practice. I would be wary of getting involved with particularly meditation, but also yoga without interactive support. So for myself, I interact with my students and the people that I help, a few times a week outside of the formal sessions that they have with me, just to make sure that they're doing okay. There are a lot of people providing services out there, so find one that speaks to you. I do provide online meditation. I do provide online life coaching for people who have a yoga practice or a meditation practice. I am going to be doing lives. I am going to be doing hangouts and Zoom seminars and all of that cool stuff. So if you're feeling like you could use my help, then please definitely get in touch, and obviously I'm going to put connections in the links below. So thank you for your time listening to me. It was a bit longer than I thought it was going to be. Good luck with this period. I'll probably post some more. If you're living with people, then try and be as loving as possible to them. If you're in confinement on your own, try and be as loving as possible to yourself. I am sending you as much as love as possible, wishing you peace and prosperity and positive vibes. Take care.